We'd like to welcome everyone. If I didn't get a chance to welcome y'all when you stepped in, I'd like to do so now. My name is Chris Tharp. I'm the president and the third generation owner of Tharp Funeral Home, and we're very proud to have such a great group with us this afternoon. We've been doing these informational seminars now for, oh my goodness, probably about 5 or 6 years, and each year they get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. Our goal has always been at Tharp to provide good information to our community, and by doing so, educate them so that they can make better decisions. Our topic today, as we all saw in the newspaper, really deals with some basic estate planning, but also some basic funeral planning. Fortunately, both from an estate planning perspective, whether it's your will, your power of attorney, or your medical directive, or whether it's your funeral plan, these aren't things we have to do every day. Thank goodness, because in many cases there's a lot of decisions that we have to make, and they're big decisions. But because they're decisions we don't make every day, we oftentimes don't do a very good job at it. And that's our goal in this afternoon's program, is to provide you all with good information so that you can make better decisions. We designed the packets that each of you got to also be very self-explanatory. Hopefully they'll answer a lot of your questions as you look through them. We're not going to read them to you, obviously, in the program, but take a minute when you get home and familiarize yourself with their contents, because they are highly informational and hopefully will be of good use to you. My grandmother is 94 years old, and she lives with my wife and I, and she did not have an estate plan. She didn't have a lot of assets left because she had spent a lot of them for her care these last few years. We have folks that come into the house and help us with her care, but she still needed to have a will and a power of attorney so that I could help her with her decisions as she got older. But she remembers a time 20 and 30 years ago when these documents were very limiting and very controlling and really could be a threat in some ways to people's autonomy and to their freedom to make decisions for themselves about their money, make decisions for themselves about their care. But as Brian said in his program, you really can now customize these documents to do exactly what you want, nothing more and nothing less. And that really gives that peace of mind that Brian was talking about and what we try to talk about in our program today. Death is something that brings out the best in some families, and it can bring out the worst in other families. And I am every week touched in some way by some of the stories that I see unfolding before me by people who did not take the time to meet with an attorney and make some basic planning, or meet with the funeral director and make some basic decisions. This planning that we're talking about today can have enormous financial implications if you do it poorly or if you don't do it at all. I said at the beginning of today's program that these types of decisions, thank goodness, are not decisions that we have to make every day. It would wear us out if we had to make them every day, so thank goodness that we don't. But when we do make these decisions, we need to make sure that we have competent consultants that know what they're talking about and give us good advice, because we don't do it every day, and that they're consultants that are honest people giving us good advice. So again, the focus of our program is to share that information with you. I'm going to ask you to look in your Tharp packet that I hope everyone got when they came in. And I'm going to ask you to pull out a sheet that's called the 50 Things You Have to Do on the Most Difficult Day of Your Life. And I always start with this sheet because it's a good starting point to sort of begin thinking about funeral planning. My official topic today is 10 mistakes to avoid in funeral planning, and Marla Meek, one of our staff members, is going to come forward in just a minute and talk specifically about that area. And then another one of our directors who helps us with advanced planning, Jeff Thaxton, is going to touch briefly on the laws in Virginia regarding prearrangement planning. I always start with this document, as I say, because I can't tell you how many times I've been at a visitation or at a funeral and somebody will come up to me and pat me on the arm and say, "Chris, you don't have to worry. I've done all my planning. I told my kids I wanted to be cremated." And I always pat them back on the arm and I say, "That's fantastic, Mr. Smith. You've only got 49 more decisions to make and you're all done." There's a lot that has to be figured out when a person dies in the state of Virginia. It's not just as simple as I want to be buried next to my parents in the church cemetery. There's, as you see from this list, a number of things that have to be considered. Now, in some cases, not all of these apply, but it is a good jumping off point to begin thinking. The average funeral cost in Central Virginia as of the end of 2009 was right at $8,700. Think about that, $8,700.